Hey guys, I'm learning TFT and I'm here with another video where I am sharing my research, and by teaching the material I'm hoping I can learn the material better and help you in the process. In this video I'm going to go through a charm analysis looking at the data from MetaTFT per stage. So we'll be able to see what's strong in stage 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The same charm in an earlier stage may not be as strong in a later stage. For example, when is Major Wish good? Should you take it in stage 4? Should you take it in stage 6? And what is the impact of the types of charms that you're playing, and in what situations would you want to play those charms? So we'll dive into all of that. Before we actually get started, I want to first mention that the science of learning shows us that the more we practice active retrieval of information rather than just passive consumption of just watching this video passively, the more we'll learn the material better. That's why ever since I started these videos where I'm teaching the material, not only am I aggregating the data, processing it, but by teaching it, I am learning and integrating the material better, and that's helped me climb a lot. And so I would suggest to you, for you to manipulate information, you can type notes while you're watching this video. That can help you store the information better and prevent the memory decay over time. You can watch the video on repeat over a few days. Spaced repetition shows us that the more we repeat the information, it tells our brain that that information is important and we should store it rather than forget it. And I would actively recommend that you interact in the comments. If you think critically about the data and information and hypotheses that I'm presenting here, and you have ideas about, hey, maybe that wasn't exactly right, or, oh, what about this? That process of thinking critically can help you learn more and help us as a community learn more. And it would be really cool if the comments in these videos become almost like a study group where we can all learn together. As an example of that, in my last video on items, Static Shiv performed really well in stage 2, and someone in the comments mentioned that that was probably heavily skewed by the charm Shivanate in stage 2. And we'll also go into Shivanate's charm win rate here, but that was definitely true. And when you look at the Shivanate data in terms of number of instances and the number of instances that Static Shiv was played, and you factor out that impact, Shivanate went from like S tier to arguably A or even B tier. And so I wouldn't have known that. I'm not perfect in all of this analysis. I'm trying to look at the data, repackage it into a digestible manner, and draw conclusions from that data. And most of my ideas are hypotheses. I'm kind of just spitballing here as I'm going along. So I'd love for you to join me on the ride and share your thoughts in the comments and make this into a collaborative effort where we as a community can all learn together. So with that said, let's get started with stage 2 charms. So the way I have organized this is I've collected the charm, the cost in gold, a description of the charm, the AVP, round win rate, and the frequency. One thing to keep in mind is, and I filtered this all by GM plus because some charms will have a higher skill cap, and I want to do this analysis at the highest skill level. But one thing you'll notice is the frequency on some of this stuff is going to be quite low, and so that can, from a sample size standpoint, could influence the accuracy of these charms. I did not include charms that had like sample size under like 100. I think most of these are going to be over 1,000. Which is like, it's like, okay, it's not great, but it's reliable enough for us to like at least draw some tentative high level conclusions. The other thing is I have assessed like my own tier. This is a subjective tier level that I've assigned to each charm, which is a function of the win rate, the AVP, and the gold cost. And so the round win rate is useful if you're thinking about winning right now. The AVP is useful when you're thinking about how this impacts the longer game. So charms that have some permanent impact longer term, for example, giving you gold, giving your units permanent HP, giving you XP, whatever it is, some permanent effect that helps your resources and team over the long haul. And then obviously that's all a function of gold, because how much you spend on that matters as well. And I'm kind of comparing each of these buckets And in each tier group, I have sorted it by round win rate, because that just gives you an overall sense. If you are trying to win streak at a certain point of the game, what is the most cost efficient, highest win rate charm you can take at a certain tier level. And we're gonna do this by stage 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and see what the general patterns are. So I'm not necessarily gonna go through every single charm. Stage 2 I probably can, but like there's a lot of charms in the later stages, but I'm more so gonna look at general patterns. So in stage 2, the best charm by far is Minor Gambit. If you are on a win streak, let's say you already have an augment like Escort Quest or Prize Fighter, where you're intentionally trying to win streak. Let's say you're pushing level 5 on 2-3 or 2-2, and you have a very high % chance to beat the rest of the lobby. Or maybe this is on 2-5 or even 2-6 if you're pushing level 6 really aggressively. Or let's say you have the augment At What Cost, where you go to level 6 right away in stage 2. If you have a high % chance to win your next round, this just boosts your average placement. I mean, compared to no charm, by like half a placement, and has an extremely high win rate solely because you're only going to take this if you have a high chance of winning in the first place. So this obviously doesn't give your team combat power, and this is more of a function of if you take this, you will probably already have a high chance of winning. One thing to keep in mind, and one way to analyze this, is in a coaching session I was discussing with, I think, Basso Skills. If, let's say, this is on 2-6, and there's like 4 players in your lobby where one player clearly beats you, but you like are pretty confident you beat 3 players, that's still worth taking this, because from an expected value standpoint, in one situation you lose 1 gold, but in 3 situations you win 3 gold. So your expected value is positive. So it doesn't have to be that you are guaranteed to beat the rest of your lobby. You should be kind of looking at it from an expected value standpoint. And obviously scouting is very important here. And this is also where practicing your ability to predict a fight is very important as well. And so this is also more generally from a coaching standpoint, being able to use like practice with Boardle on MetaTFT. They have a feature where you can try to predict fights, and you can specify by stage. I would highly recommend that. That's as a way to practice this, which is useful not just with this charm, but if you're trying to streak stage 2 in any situation, or stage 3, and you're just trying to decide, let's say you have a bunch of pairs, should I roll or should I level and add a unit? All of that analysis can make you a better TFT player in general. Next in the S tier, we have Summon Dummy, gain a target dummy for 1 round, and that has a 56% win rate on that round. It just basically adds a bunch of HP to your board for 0 gold. And so even though, like, for example, some of like Shivanate has a higher win rate here, I put Summon Dummy at S tier because it costs 0 gold, whereas Shivanate costs 1 gold. And especially in the early game, your gold is way more valuable than it is in the late game. And you don't necessarily, a lot of times in the early game, unless you're streaking, it's more important to generate gold and economy for your late game than it is to win the rounds. Whereas the inverse is true in the late game. In stage 5 and 6, it's going to be more important for you to win rounds than it is for you to preserve gold. Magic Mirror I have at A tier here, and one thing to note here is that I have no charm here as like the benchmark that you would compare all of the charm stats to the no charm stats. So no charm is 4.5 AVP and a 4.49% win rate, and that's 66% of the time. And so you'll see later that the default round win rate, for example, in stage 5 is going to be lower than 50%, because in stage 5 you can get a charm every 2 rolls, and so people will on average have a charm much more of the time, which means that the no charm win rate goes down. And so buying a charm should always be compared to that no charm win rate and not to just like a 50% win rate. At least that's especially true in the late game. So here we have gain a 1-star copy of a random champion you fielded last combat. And I have that at A tier because in specific so not only is it useful to win a round, but in specific circumstances, this can be extremely powerful if you're win streaking. So a lot of this stage 2 analysis, when you're thinking about buying charms, if you can get positive EV on it, like Minor Gambit, it's worth playing. If it costs 0 gold, it's worth playing. But other than that, I would say most of this stage 2 charm analysis is around how you can streak. So even let's say on 2-6, I think Dish Soap mentioned, I forget the exact circumstance, but if you have a bunch of pairs on 2-6 and you are 1 roll away from being able to buy a charm and you're 4 streaking, it could be worth rolling to hit potentially some of your pairs and to get access to that charm. And so if, for example, here you are, let's say you have a bunch of pairs on your board and you won the first round, it could be worth buying this because then you not only are you increasing the strength of your board, which in the worst case you're losing 1 gold because every unit that you gain will be minimally worth 1 gold, but you could be getting 2 gold of value or maybe even 3 gold of value if you're playing some high cost units. So this is actually isn't costing you 2 gold. It's probably costing you 1 gold, maybe even 0 gold, and can drastically improve your combat power and your ability to win rounds. Next we have Shivanate. This is extremely powerful if you have a lot of item components that you haven't slammed. A lot of times you can actually save this on 2-1, not buy it on 2-1, see if you win a fight, and then buy the charm at the end of the round at 2-1 and apply it to 2-2. And the other benefit of this is you can put all your shivs on units, and if those aren't completed items, they'll pop off after this round. So you can see here that Shivanate has a 78% round win rate, which basically is a guaranteed win for the most part, especially if you are playing on a portal that has a lot of item components. That's extremely powerful. So if you're win streaking, you should pretty much always buy Shivanate. Next we have Copycat. Get a 1-star copy of the first enemy champion to die. This one has a pretty high win rate because usually you're not going to buy this if you can't kill units, or you definitely shouldn't. So this charm is extremely important for you to scout, and you want to try to position your units to focus fire enemy units that either have a unit that you want. So for example, let's say you have a pair of Lilias and you need that 3rd Lilia, and there's like 2 or 3 other players in the lobby with Lilias. Try to position all your units on the side that's going to kill like the most Lilias or match up against the Lilias on that side. Or if there's a bunch of players that have an early 3 cost, like let's say this is the portal with the early gives you a 3 cost orb, like this is extremely powerful. So this is the strength of this is really a function of the lobby, so it's really important to scout this. Minor Wish, gain a random minor effect, and this is an average of all of these, which is not perfect because I did not do a weighted average here, but it's like useful for the most part to get a general picture. But you can see here that 3 of these are going to be positive gold value for you. This gives you 4 gold, this gives you 2 gold value. The champion could be like a 2 gold value. So these are all gonna be positive EV. Whereas these 2 will give you just a very high win rate percentage. So in general, if you are win streaking, you should almost like, this is just automatic instant click. Very good value for the early game. Even if you're not, basically the only situation you don't take Minor Wish is if you're lose streaking, and if you happen to get one of these, it could break your lose streak and cause you to win by accident. But that's the only exception. All ones is very good. It's a free shop reroll, helps you hit your 2-star 1 cost. Same thing with Dehance. Minor Polymorph is pretty much, it's very circumstantial. It's only the most of the time you want to use it if you have a 2-star 1 cost and you can just sell the rest of your 1 cost and upgrade that into 2-star 2 cost, and gives you a lot of tempo in the mid game and early game. Or if you have a bunch of 1 costs, then you could just use that as a free 1 gold upgrade. The downside is if you have certain units that are very important for your traits on your board, like that could really screw up your board. So I suspect that's why the round win rate is lower here. And then B tier, they're just like kind of whatever. I think part of the reason that these B tiers are so poorly performing is because they don't actually help your board. So for example, Crystal Ball. You would think that Crystal Ball would help you position better against your opponent, but part of the reason it's so bad is on 2-1, everyone gets access to a charm, and you're getting a charm that doesn't really help your combat power, and everyone else has, you know, charms that are helping them in some more active way. All right, next we have stage 3 charms, and you can see that there's a lot more charms in stage 3. The AVP is still about 4.5, but the average win rate is starting to decrease. And you'll actually see that the AVP goes down as we go into like stage 5, especially because the players are getting knocked out. So in general, even if you don't buy a charm, you're already finishing higher. All right, so we'll start off with Assembly. Costs 12 gold to give you a copy of each 1-cost champion. There are 14 1-cost champions, so this is plus 2 gold in value. And you can see that it increases your AVP by 0.2 placements. And the round win rate is like okay. It's not as good as some of these other ones. But if you consider that this is not actually a 12 gold cost, this is like a give you 2 gold cost. It's extremely high value, and on top of that, it can help you hit one of your 2-star 1 costs that you're missing. This is particularly strong on, let's say, Portal, where if you have 2-star Portal units, it actually increases the strength of your Portal, and so hitting those 2-star 1 costs is extremely valuable. Conjure Anvil is very expensive, but it can help you hit another completed item earlier, which drastically improves your win rate, not just that round, but for the rest of the stage. And if you're win streaking, that can be extremely powerful. So this is very circumstantial. I would say you don't always click this. But so like if you're lose streaking and you're trying to go fast 8, like that 8 gold could really hinder your ability to hit your forecast later. But if you're win streaking and you already have excess gold, and this purchasing this component anvil can help you continue your streak and generate more gold, then that can more than pay off for this 8 gold value. Minor Mimicry costs 5 gold, has a 59% win rate. It gives you a lesser champion duplicator. Again, this is circumstantial. If you're playing reroll, this is extremely valuable. If you have a pair of 3 costs and this can help you stabilize your mid game, this is also extremely valuable. So you have to really think critically about when you want to use these charms. Next we have a bunch of belts. Gives you 6 non-removable belts, which is 600 HP value for your team, and has a 71% win rate. This is just, if you're streaking, you should just buy this charm, because if you're on, let's say, a 6 streak, that's plus 3 streak value, plus 1 gold from winning, so that's 4 gold in value. If that could be the difference in your fight, like that's a huge difference, because it's not only a plus 2 gold diff if you continue your 6 streak, but then you also have the opportunity to get another 4 gold the following round and the round after that. So for the most part, any charm that costs like a non-trivial amount of gold, like 2 gold at this phase of the game, is non-trivial. You pretty much only click on this if you are streaking, or you believe that you can continue to streak, or are starting a streak that's really valuable. Or let's say you are playing on an augment that benefits from winning, so let's say Prize Fighter or Escort Quest. Same goes for Treasure Hunter, same idea. Assassin, same idea. So pretty much all of these combat power ones that cost 2 gold and have high round win rates, I would say all fall under the category of if you are streaking. Golden Dummy is actually positive value. Gain a dummy for 1 round. Your dummies drop gold as they take damage. I think on average this will give you at least 3 or 4 gold. So this is just positive value. The one thing to really make sure of is you place this in the middle of your board and scout to make sure that the dummy actually gets attacked, because if it doesn't get attacked, it doesn't take damage, it won't give you gold. So a lot of times I'll just solo frontline this and then just move my main tanks back to make sure I get that gold value. Next we have Minor Gambit. This is very strong again if you can win. So circumstantial, make sure you scout. And all of these one cost combat power ones are not as powerful as these in terms of win rate, but because they cost less gold, that trade-off is something you should consider if you're streaking again. I changed Ultra Ascension to S tier because it costs 0 gold. If it's 0 gold, like, you don't really lose anything, so you might as well go for it. Next we have A tier. So these are both combat power, but they cost 3 gold. They have higher win rate than these 2 gold ones, but at this stage of the game, 3 gold is very expensive, and so you should only take these if you're on like a 6 streak. Magic Mirror, gain a 1-star copy of a random champion you field last combat. This, I believe, gets a little bit less valuable as you have more units, and but it can be valuable if the units you're playing are like 3 costs. So it just really depends on your situation. You have to think actively about it. These are positive EV, so you don't really think about them as 2 gold value. It's just give you free gold on average. All threes is circumstantial. If you're playing a 3-cost reroll, or you have a pair of 3 costs, that can be very strong in that situation. Minor Wish was an instant take in stage 2. We can see here that it's starting to decrease in value, and so it's still probably worth taking because on average you're getting gold. But if you end up getting one of the combat power ones, it might not be that strong if you're not streaking. So this is just increases in variance. But one thing to keep in mind is even if these do help you win a round, winning a round gives you 1 gold, so it could still pay off for itself. So for the most part, you should think about if it's 1 gold combat power and it could be the diff in winning the fight, like, it will still pay for itself. Sinister Deal, gain 2 gold, cost 1 player health. That's usually worth taking in the early game because gold is more valuable than HP. And then, 0 gold, pretty much take. And these are all kind of not that valuable, but in the right circumstances worth taking. Conjure Emblem is high variance, usually decreases your AVP because you can get an emblem that's no good, and if you get an emblem that's no good and lose 12 gold, you just lost the game, like you're going 8th. This can be more valuable if you have Wandering Trainer Portal or Augment, or you have like an Arcana emblem, but for the most part you just avoid taking this. And then Comfort Food, you can see, is the inverse of what was the other one that I mentioned? Of Sinister Deal. Like, you do not want to you don't want to pay gold to get HP at this phase of the game, and it drops your average placement by half. And yeah, in general, you don't want to do this. Like, maybe the one situation you would buy this is if you're playing Fortune or you're going Lost Streak. Like, maybe What Doesn't Kill You. All right, stage 4. So you can see that stage 4, the average round win rate went from stage 3, 47, stage 2, 49, 47, 46. So we need to use this as the benchmark for all the charms. AVP is starting to go down, so like maybe in the rare instance someone actually dies in stage 4. Not very common. So at the S tier we have Animate Shop. This costs you 6 gold, but for 20 seconds your shop refreshes every 2 seconds. So that is 10 rerolls, which is 12 gold. This is plus 6 gold value. Very good in general, especially if you're going reroll. Also, if you're going fast 8, like, still very valuable. Leadership. A champion holding 3 complete items gains 300 HP permanently. This was less valuable last patch, but ever since they added the additional item remover every creep round, this becomes more valuable. Especially if you're itemizing like a tank and a carry. Even if you have a fully itemized tank and a fully itemized carry, you could just item remove your carry and give the 300 HP to your tank. So in the right circumstance, this can be very strong. Next, we have Major Wish. So Major Wish is the upgraded version of Minor Wish. We have strong combat power. We have positive gold value here. 4 dummies in 1 round, not great. Support item, decent. But keep in mind, this is 5 gold. So you are starting to increase your variance by a good amount by taking Major Wish. If you're win streaking, it's a easy pick. If you are low on HP and you are far away from hitting your forecast, let's say you're going fast 8 strategy, you kind of have to actively think, is this worth taking? It can really give you a huge boost, like 2 champions or 6 rerolls can really improve your average placement over the longer term. Doesn't impact your current win rate, round win rate as much. But if you end up getting, well, even for the 10 gold, like that helps you. But if you end up getting like, you know, a support item for 1 round or a combat power when you're gonna lose anyway, let's say your board's really weak, you get, actually this could make the difference even on a weak board. But if you get like, you know, one of these and your board's weak, you just paid 5 gold for not necessarily winning your fight, and that could harm your long haul by a good amount. So you gotta think critically about that. Next, we have a bunch of combat powers that help your board get strong, that cost a little bit less than, you know, the 5 gold ones. Again, think critically. Do you need to win right now? Are you low on HP? Or can you greed a little bit more? I'm not going to go into all of these. Oh, Queen's Gambit, especially because Fairy is very strong right now, is really good. And so if you already have like a Callista and you're contested Callista, there are situations here where on 4-1, I see this and I just like push level 8 early and roll down. I'll even roll to 0 gold to try to make sure I can win. Obviously, you need to scout your lobby and make sure that winning is possible. But like there was one game where I had a Callista pair early because I was already streaking early and tempoing early. 4-1, I see this charm and I push 8 and roll to 0. I win that round, hit the Callista 2, and I pretty much, it's just an easy win for the rest of the game. So I won't go into all of these. These are just high value, 1 cost, 0 cost with 55% win rate is very strong. Assembly, again, positive gold value can help you clean up your 1 cost pairs. Minor Mimicry, it's like okay in the right circumstance, like you're still missing your 3 costs or you're still playing reroll, that could be really strong. These are higher cost charms that have decent win rates, but when you look at the fact that the win rate on this 59-58% is the same as some 2 cost charms, like that's just going to be lower value. And even if you're streaking, it's for the most part like doesn't, it's like the same gold as you would get if you're on a 6 streak. So I would more so take this if you really want to continue your 6 streak, or if you want to, like you're really low on HP and you just need a win. Like let's say you're doing a fortune cash out and you're like at 10 gold and you need to win, like okay, take it. It's not great value, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah, so same with a lot of these. The count is circumstantial. If you're playing a board that really spikes big on the right 5 costs, like you could just play that lottery, especially if you have a lot of 5 cost outs. Let's say you're playing Callista, you can hit Milio, you can hit Morgana, you can hit Camille. So like those are pretty good odds and it might be worth paying for that. Down here in B tier, we have Conjure Emblem again. Not that great. It becomes more valuable, I suspect, in the later game, especially if you're playing on like let's say you're playing the flexible augment, or you have you're on a wandering trainer. and you already have like one or two, like let's say you have a frost emblem and a fairy emblem. If you're playing on like a portal with where you already have lots of emblems, or you have the Arcana emblem, that would be very good. But if you get two of the same emblem, that could just be a win out. Then sometimes it could be worth paying for that, like because you're paying 12 gold, where you could like that could cause you to like lower your placement by one, or cause you to win the game. Like sometimes the expected value of that is just worth it, especially if you have been streaking a ton, you have extra gold. You could just like play that, roll that roulette wheel. Getting an item component at this phase of the game usually is not worth paying for unless you're streaking again. Like maybe that's worth it. Earthquake is strong, but again, 60% is not that much stronger than some of these 2-cost charms, but you're paying 5 gold, so usually this is not worth it. And then down here we have Conjure Spatula and Frying Pan. For the most part, that's not worth it. 15 gold at this stage of the game. You would much rather use that for hitting your 2-star forecast. The rare situation is, again, if hitting one of these happens to give you win out potential by having like 2 emblems that can give you 9 fairy or 9 frost or something, that can be worth paying for. But otherwise, you would generally steer clear of those. All right, stage 5. So now stage 5, you can start having access to Xerath charms. I guess that's true for stage 4, but the sample size is so small that it just didn't really show up in the data. You'll notice that round win rate is 47%, AVP is 3.8. So now we need to compare the charms to this baseline. I have X where the Xerath charms are. If you get the Sun, like that's just huge value. It improves your AVP by half a placement, increases your win rate. Usually if you get this, you're already ahead, and that can just secure the game for you. Very good value, especially since at stage 5, you're either going fast 9 or like you're winning and able to get to 9, in which case you could just delay that, buy it, and have the combat power strength to last you a few more rounds to get to 9, or you're just going to be at 8 and you're not going to be able to get to 9, so you might as well use the gold to improve your board right now. The star is the best like combat power in the late game. It gives you 80% win rate, stars up all your 1-stars, shield, AP, extremely strong for only 7 gold of value. When you think about that compared to like, a bunch of these charms that cost 6-8 gold, like huge value. Conjure Artifact improves your average placement by 0.3. It's expensive, but again, late game, you're starting to get to the point where adding, like if all your board is 2-starred, it's not going to actually, you're not going to be able to improve the strength of your board easily without going 9 or hitting like 2-star 5 costs. So paying 18 gold for an artifact anvil, especially since you have item removers more accessible, is extremely valuable. And if you're not sure how to use artifact anvils, I put together a video recently on the best artifacts and their best holders, so you can check that out. Summon Dragon is extremely expensive, but can help you win. It's not as easily, like just the gold value is not that strong, but I still included it at S tier because in stage 5 you're taking 10 damage. If you lose 10 damage from the stage, and you could lose a snowballed fight, like that could be like 6 units, let's say that's 16 damage. Or usually if a dragon's going to help you swing a fight, it might be more like a 3-unit loss, but that could be a 13, let's say, damage swing. And not only that, but like you're dealing that much damage to the enemy if you win, which could swing like your placement by like half to 1. So that's why in the late game, paying for charms in the right circumstance can be worth it, especially if you're like on 1 life and there's other people that are on 1 life or close to it. Paying for it could be worth it. But keep in mind that in stage 5, so stage 4 and earlier, you need 3 rolls to get access to another charm. Stage 5 and later, it's only 2 rolls. So keep in mind that you could roll twice here and you would still have 6 gold left to be able to like buy a charm that costs 6 gold or even 4 gold. So like you're only lowering your win percentage by like 8%, but you're getting access to rolls where you might be able to hit upgrades. So you gotta think actively about when it makes sense to take this and when it makes sense to skip it. The other thing in general, if you are in a very high HP lead and you're at level 8 and you're thinking about going 9, then taking this doesn't make sense. Like sometimes you could just sack some HP, go 9, which gives you a lot more win out potential than if you just buy this, win now, but then kind of sacrifice your late game. The same generally applies to all of these for the most part with combat power. Major Gambit, very strong if it requires you to scout. Queen's Gambit, also very strong. I'm just looking at the ones with the AVP, gets a huge boost. Especially, you know, you can hit that Callista 2 or you can get closer to a Milio 2. Assembly still quite good. Again, hitting those 2-star 1 costs, if you're still missing them for like Portal, for example, very valuable. Maybe Major Mimicry, if you can get a 2-star 5 cost online, or you're still sitting on that like Callista pair, extremely valuable to shore up your situation. Similarly with Animate Shop, the thing with these is they're really gonna hurt your anything that gives you like econ power, which is like even champion duplicator is just gold value, because otherwise you would have to roll and buy the unit. These are gonna harm your ability to win that round, but will increase your average placement because over the longer term you are extracting some permanent value over it rather than just combat power for that round specifically. Desperate Plea reduces incoming player damage by 80%. So in round 5, stage 5 and stage 6, if this makes the difference between, like, let's say there's 2 or 3 players that are all in 1 life, if this saves you, then that, I mean, you know, paying 5 gold to have you finish in 4th as opposed to 6th, like that's the best 5 gold you could ever spend. That's like a, you know, 20 LP swing. And then you're getting into like mediocre win rates for high cost. The World with the Zerath charm, good, gives you every 4-cost champ 8 plus 18 gold value. So this is great if you're already ahead and can help you win more. Frying Pan and Spatula actually got better than in stage 4. You can see stage 4 was pretty poor here, 45-42 win rate. I suspect the reason here is because you would only get these in stage 5, because after stage 4 you don't get any more item components. So the only reason that you would take these is if you already have an item component that's just like sitting around doing nothing, or maybe let's say you have an item component with Pandora's items and you could use it, then just, you know, not wasting a component. And if you happen to have, and I suspect the reason Frying Pan might be better is well, actually, I'm not sure because the average placement is lower. But Frying Pan can give you Preserver emblem, which is very good in late game, especially in this meta where preservers are very strong. Component Anvil, similarly, if you just happen to have a useless component sitting on bench, then that can help you make a full item out of it. Otherwise, you can see here that Major Wish is now, for the most part, not worth taking, because if you get one of the, you know, gold ones, you are sacrificing your round win rate by a lot. Again, I would only take this if I'm on a win streak with lots of HP, because then the combat power is still valuable and the gold is valuable. But for the most part, I would avoid taking Major Wish in stage 5. So in stage 4, it was still worth taking, but stage 5 and later, not worth taking. Down here's a bunch of just mediocre combat augments. At this point in the game, like 2 gold, if it helps you save, you know, kill 1 more unit or 2 more units, or especially if it can help swing the fight, definitely worth taking. And you're not paying as much as, you know, some of these like 6 gold, 8 gold ones. So this you usually take if, like, let's say you're pretty healthy and you're going 9, you happen to get a charm that round anyway, might as well buy it. Helps you preserve from some HP while you're going 9. Or if you're just low on gold and you're dying, like you don't really have much of a choice. Radiant ties. This one's really important. Whenever I saw this, I would usually take it. And looking at this analysis, it only gives you a 53% round win rate, which, you know, there's like two 4-cost charms that are higher win rate than Radiant ties. A lot of that is because it's just very high variance. Unless, like, for example, you're playing like Ziggs Blitz reroll and like your whole team is 3-star and everyone that has an item is like really strong, you could just get really screwed. Like, I've had situations where I get a Radiant, like, I don't know, Last Whisper on my Zillion because they're just holding an item, and like that doesn't really do much for you. And especially since you're paying 10 gold for this, you know, you could roll twice and still have enough gold to buy a 6 gold charm that's going to give you a higher win rate. Similar thing to barrier. Like, I would look at this and be like, oh, barrier, like 1000 shield, that's pretty good, but yeah, not worth. Win rate's not very good, and 8 gold not worth. And then not too much else stands out here. Major polymorph, like, the only situation this seems like it's worth it is you have, I mean, I don't know how many of you have seen the Leduc video where you go with the you start off with Build-A-Bud, you minor polymorph that into a 2-star 3-cost. So Build-A-Bud gives you a 3-star 1-cost. You minor polymorph that into a 3-star 2-cost. You recombobulate that on 3-2 into a 3-star 3-cost. You get a polymorph from a 3-star 3-cost to a 3-star 4-cost, and then you can major polymorph it into a 3-star 5-cost. But for the most part, if you have a 4-cost champ, at this stage of the game, you've usually built a synergistic trait web around it that if you happen to have that one get transformed, could completely screw up your team. So that even if you get a 2-star 5-cost, it's just too high variance and not worth it. Okay, so finally, we're going into stage 6, which if you're at this point of the game, you're probably averaging like a top 3, top 4, and charms at this stage of the game are extremely important. Like, the win rate on some of these are very high, and on some of them are very low. And so understanding the strength of these charms can make the difference in like a whole placement. So this is extremely important. You can see that AVP is 2.4, round win rate is 47%. The star is very strong, the sun is very strong, the tower is very strong. At 5 gold, you are getting 58% win rate. So another reason why Xerath in the late game is extremely strong, it gives you access to charms that could be the difference between, like, let's say you are losing to a stronger team, but you have an HP advantage, they're on 1 life. If you can somehow throw in a Xerath, like maybe get Arcana in, but you luck into the star or the sun and you have gold, like that can help you swing the fight and make a huge difference in your rounds. I forget exactly how Xerath's charms work, but it's like something like if you, for each time that you don't buy a charm, it increases like the strength of the Xerath charm, I believe. I'll look that up later, but if you happen to remember off the top of your head, like throw it in the comments, I'd appreciate that. I think other people would appreciate that. Summon Golem. This is actually stronger than Summon Dragon. So Dragon used to be the strongest. From last patch, they increased the gold from 8, I think, or was it 6 to 10. So Summon Golem is the strongest non-Xerath combat augment that you can get in the late game. If you get Summon Golem, you should pretty much buy it. Like, unless you like are for sure know that you can win the round, or you know you are gonna lose, but you're like trying to get to level 10 or something, or you're still trying to get to level 9. This is huge value. Tremors, similar. Guild of Thieves, also quite strong. The tower, from a value standpoint, is like extremely strong. And Mystic Spirit and Ironclad Spirit gaining armor magic resist in the right circumstance, because in the late game there are fewer opponents, so you might know that it's like 1 or 2 opponents, and if they happen to both be AD or magic, then you can get huge value on this. So this you really have to scout and could actually make the difference. And especially given the gold value, that's extremely high value for that gold value, because you're getting like 55 or 53%, which is not that different from these, but you're saving so much gold. Summon Dragon. I mean, if you're in stage 6, again, the difference in a win or a loss could be the difference in a placement or two. So you just gotta do what you gotta do. Usually you're gonna buy Dragon even though it's so expensive. Same thing with these. Desperate Plea, again, could be the difference in 1 or 2 placements. A thing to keep in mind for like Animate Shop, or actually Animate Bench is quite good if you have a bunch of 5 costs that you could just throw in. But Animate Shop, like any econ augments at this, or charms at this point in the game, are usually not worth taking unless you know you can spike a lot from it. Like let's say you have multiple pairs of 5 costs, then that might help. But usually at this point in the game, you just want combat power. Another thing to keep in mind in stage 5 and stage 6, you typically want to roll to find charms, unless you first have a very good reason for greeting. Like let's say you are very healthy and you're trying to go 9, but for the most part you want to roll, because you only need to roll once. You get a free roll on a new round and you roll once for that charm, and the difference between 47% win rate versus like almost guaranteed, like you can find a charm that's going to give you at least 50 to 55%. You should be doing that every round in the late game, because that could be the difference between you getting a 2nd place and a 3rd place, or like a 1st and a 3rd. Conjure Artifact, all of these we've kind of discussed. The thing is, some of them have lowered in value, because as the game gets later, the incremental value in each item gets lower, and you usually have fully itemized carries and tanks. It's still high variance on whether you get a good artifact, and at that point in the game, you'd rather have a like combat power that increases the value of your whole board, rather than one item like as a percentage of your total items. This is much smaller than, for example, if you get an artifact anvil in stage 2, like that's going to be half or a third of your item value, whereas in the late game this might be 5 to 10% of your item value. Champion Duplicator is gold value, but if it happens to get you a 2-star 5 cost, that could be worth taking. These are going to be lower value combat power. Frying Pan, surprisingly, is actually pretty good here compared to Spatula. Not so good from a win rate standpoint, but your AVP is better. So again, this goes back to if you happen to have item component on bench, maybe you had a Milio that farmed you like an item component and it happened to be the perfect item component, then that could be really good. But frequency on this low, sample size is low, so usually this is not worth taking. Radiant Ties, again, just not good value. 10 gold for 49%, when you can pay 1 gold for like 55% here. Not worth. Like pretty much never take Radiant Ties unless you have like a full 3-star team. Barrier, not good. You're paying 8 gold. So Major Wish, don't take it. Stage 5, if you're win streaking, you need and you have a lot of HP, you can take it. But if you low roll like a gold one here and you need combat power and you die from that, like it's just not worth it. That 5 gold, even if you roll 2 times, maybe you can get a 1 gold. Like let's say you only have 5 gold left, you might be able to get a 1 gold left one. But I mean, I guess if you have 5 gold, maybe you just roll your dice and hope you get a combat power. But for the most part, you want to try to go for something higher value. Down here again, all of these are like helping you in your future game with some gold value, so you should only take these if you have an HP lead. All right, so that covers all of the charms. I hope you found this video useful. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments. If you have your own thoughts, something stood out to you, maybe I got some analysis wrong, maybe you have an interesting insight that you want to add, please interact in the comments. I'd love for these types of videos to become a discussion group and community where we can all learn together. And if you have other ideas on what analysis and research you want me to do and be able to share and talk about, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.